Now let's look at defending the A side. At the gate, aim right above the door panel. Aim along the top border of the bottom box. Then you can use the bottom tip of the circle. Aim along the nameplate of the door. Aim right above the octopus's eyes. Then you can aim right above this metal sheet, and then you can aim above the drums. Aim right below the third line while holding the off angle at the door. Aim right above the grey line for enemies in the pool. Use this line as same as before, and aim around the gap in this patch for enemies white peeking from the door. Aim above the wall base for enemies white peeking from the mid. And aim right over here for enemies close peeking. Basically, your play area for mid is this. Aim right below this grey line for enemy behind the pyramid. Aim right above the mid line for enemy beside the blocks. Aim along the top brick of the blocks for enemies behind the gate. Aim right below the top second brick for enemies at the gate. And below the top third brick for enemies inside the gate. Aim above this panel on the wall for enemies behind the pyramid. You can also use the adjacent line on the pyramid. Aim right below the grey line for enemies close peeking from right behind the pyramid. And above the grey line for a white peek. Aim right below this sandy area for enemies peeking from behind the box. And aim right below the bridge for enemies coming from the spawn. Aim right above the grey wall base for enemies white peeking from the mid. And below the top edge of the grey wall base for enemies close peeking from the mid. For a white peek coming from behind the box, aim above the border of the box that is closer to you. Aim along this striped line for a close peek. Aim along this part of the tiny box for a close peek. And for a white peek, aim above the tiny box. The same as before, aim above this grey panel. Aim right above the door handles. Also, you can use this part of the greenery. You can use the top tip of this semicircle. In this scenario, aim along the bottom borders of the shutters. Aim along the line going between these two pipes and the line above for a close peek. Now moving on to defending the B side. Aim along this protruding brick at the window to get a clean headshot. On the right side, aim along the top edge of the bottom dark bricks. For enemies closer to the wall, aim right below this grey line. And for enemies closer, aim along this line. Aim right below the dark bricks for enemies white peeking at the door, and you can use this line too. The box's top edges, the palm leaf, these are great cues for this entire area. For enemies at the gates, aim right below the window. And for the closer enemies, aim right above the same line. You can also use the bottom border of this entire brick patch. Aim right below the top edge of these openings to get a clean headshot at the door. And aim along this line for when you're holding an off angle. This needs to be a crosshair placement for enemies when they are in front of you. You can also place your crosshair right below this line. Over here, place your crosshair right above the smaller log. For this entire area, place your crosshair right along this color demarcation. Aim along the top edge of this opening while holding this angle.